Hi, it's John Reed live from Financial Force Community Live with my colleague Phil Wainwright from Diginomica. How's it going?
Hi, very well, thanks, John.
You and I don't appear at many shows together, so
absolutely. This is quite novel.
Yep.
Good to catch up in person for a change.
Indeed, and we're actually going to demystify frictionless enterprise during this video shoot, which is going to be interesting.
That's a tall order, isn't it?
It is, yeah. So Diginomica has been around for 4 years, and we've been looking at issues of digital change in the enterprise, but this underlying concept of frictionless enterprise really comes from your work. We've kind of, as a group, sort of selfishly taken it and embraced it.
Oh, I freely donated.
But we get a lot of reader questions around the topic, and I thought it'd be cool to just hear the originator share a little bit about sort of how you came up with it and sort of how you see it evolving.
Right. Well, frictionless enterprise really, I came up with the term because I just felt that it encapsulated where this whole movement of technology that's driving business at the moment is going. And I felt that with these amazing connected devices that we have, with the cloud joining everything up, we've got the ability to just sweep away barriers that used to exist, and which determine how the old how the enterprise originally formed.
Which is full of friction, really.
It's absolutely full of friction, because before computers and networks came along, the way that the network was actually pieces of paper, pieces of paper that flowed around the organisation. And I think one of the things that that has become obvious, but is still kind of bubbling under the surface, is that the enterprises and the enterprise applications that we've ended up with today are still reflecting that old, all of the processes around putting things down on bits of paper, sending those bits of paper around through kind of closely defined functions that to make sure the bits of paper don't get lost. And so there's all kinds of built-in barriers and boundaries and demarcations that we don't need anymore, and we're just going through the motions because that's the way it's evolved. And so the point of saying, okay, this is frictionless enterprise that we need to work towards now, is basically saying digital transformation is not just about changing the technology, it's about changing the way the enterprise works, and we've got to use the technology and its connectedness to sweep away all of those barriers.
Well, one of the things I like about the concept is that it makes you start thinking about like the user experience side as well, right? We're ultimately going to judge this not because someone says, oh, we've gone digital. We're going to judge it based on what our experience is like dealing with these institutions. Right?
Well, yes, and I mean, I think that the institutions have to change as well. I mean, but because I think that the more successful you are in this frictionless enterprise world, the more networked you are, the more connected you are, and the more you're making connections and collaboration across the old demarcations. And so, I mean, this is very interesting for us. For example, if you look at the way that organisations do DevOps for in software development now, one of the most important elements of that is cross-functional teams, having people from different bits of the organisation working together to get things done. And then that, I think, is part of the essence of this frictionless concept, that we don't have to put people in the old boxes anymore to be able to get things done. The most effective way is to connect people to resources and to outcomes.
Right, and I think one of the interesting things about that concept is that it's more aspirational than reality, right? Like, when we use that phrase, we're not saying that's what it's like to work in an institution today.
No. I think that frictionless enterprise, to me, is the goal. And we're a long way from being there at the moment. And I actually kind of divided up into five components, really. I mean, one is that I started off calling it mobile, but actually I think nowadays it's more about everywhere. It's the fact that because of being
always connected, basically.
We've got access to the computing. I mean, it starts off with mobile, we've got these smart devices, but now the next phase of evolution of computing is that you don't even need the devices, or you don't need to carry them around. The computing just comes to you with messages, so you can be sitting in your car and a message comes to you in your car because that's where you are at the moment, and it says your customers your appointment with your customer that you're about to go to has been cancelled, so would you like to go for early lunch instead? And there's like a whole set of applications behind that messaging, which has just come to you in the location that you are, and as we've stripped away all of the stuff that meant that you used to actually have to pick up your phone and go into the email inbox to discover that your appointment was
right. So
was
mobile
cancelled.
is one. Can you breeze through the other?
Right. So yeah, this is going to be a long video if I do each one as long as that.
Yeah.
So the next one is on demand. Stuff needs to be you use resources as you need them and as they're made available. So very much the as a service model. Real time is another one. So the information needs to be available. You know, you shouldn't be waiting for it. It should be there when you need it. The next one is collaboration is very important. So you need to connect up with other people to get things done rather than being a lone wolf. And the fifth one, this is really embarrassing when you forget what the fifth one was. I skipped across to collaboration.
Yeah, I think you skipped one.
I told you what.
So,
but now I've remembered the fourth one is being change ready. So that you need to have systems which are flexible enough because the world is changing and you need to constantly be able to do things in new ways.
And we could spend a whole video talking just about the obstacles on the collaboration front, like the fact that, like in our smaller company, Diginomica, where even we've struggled around the best way to collaborate, whether it's Slack or Gmail or whatever. Think about organizations and their struggles around embedding collaboration into processes and stuff. So we're a long way from, I think, where we want to be with that.
Yeah, I think collaboration is very interesting as kind of, to me, one of the missing pillars of this new frictionless enterprise, and we're still working out how to do it.
But you've kind of come on strong with that the last couple of years, writing more about collaboration, sort of realizing that the whole thing falls apart if that piece isn't somehow reckoned with as well.
Yes, because you can't exist in this world without without teaming up with not just people in your own organisation, but people in other organisations. You know, I think it even goes into politics. I think that if you look at what the UK is going through at the moment, they're kind of thinking, oh, we don't want to be part of the European Union, and yet the country is discovering that, well, in the modern world, there's whole kinds of reasons why you need to work with other countries to get things done. So, you know, the connectedness is right from the individual right up to the nation state.
And one of the things I like about the frictionless enterprise concept is that it becomes a place where you can start throwing these buzzwords to hold them and make sense of them, right? So we think about AI or machine learning or big data or whatever. You can kind of put them in that framework and see to what degree are they valid concepts, to what degree are they proven use cases, to what degree are they still hypothetical.
Yeah, I think one of the other things that I think is quite characteristic of moving towards frictionless enterprises, we see a lot of convergence. We see a lot of things that used to be separate kind of being joined together or being unbundled and rebundled in new ways.
We had a Diginomica reader comment from Clive Bolton saying that I think he said something like, I think Phil needs to rethink frictionless enterprise because of security. And he pointed to a couple of issues. And I responded in the comments and said, I don't think it's really a rethink. I think it's, I was answering on your behalf really and just saying that you take something like security, which has become, I would argue in the last year, it's become a much more prevalent and important topic from the board level on down, that you have to integrate that into your, to your entire concept of frictionless, right? That if you're not confronting security, then it's sort of, you may have reduced the friction, but it's only an illusion, right? Because security breaches are going to disrupt that.
Yeah, so we're taking away obstacles and boundaries, but we're not taking away rules and policies. So you still need to have security, you still need to have compliance, but you need to implement them in a way that's frictionless. That means that you can do these things without getting in the way of what people actually need to achieve.
Which is the real challenge around designing for security and designing for compliance is making that, as you said, as frictionless as possible without losing the rigor of it.
Right. But we have these wonderful machines now that can do all of this. That kind of, and the other thing, I talked about convergence, the other thing that comes into this is context. The machines just can hold so much context that all goes without saying. You know, if I'm signed into my iPhone, then I've already got, it's already verified that it's me.
Right.
So you don't need to do that re-verification.
Right.
And so, you know, in the past, there used to be a piece of paper that that had to have all of the context on the piece of paper, so that everybody knew what the transaction was. But now the transaction is going digitally in a connected environment, so the context is just there in the system.
So it's an optimistic view, but one that's grounded in hopefully some good old-fashioned realism and maybe a little bit of cynicism as well.
Oh, you always have to be cynical, especially where technology is involved,
I think so.
don't you?
All right, so let's wrap this up real quick with just applying these concepts to what you've seen the last couple days at Financial Force.
Yeah, I mean, this is very interesting because, you know, Financial Force is talking about particularly joining up processes through an organisation, and in the session this morning, Geoffrey Moore was talking about that as well. How you know, digital transformation in some contexts is thought of as, well, just the engagement layer of where the organisation meets the customer. But in fact, if you don't tie all the rest of the activities within the enterprise into that engagement with the customer, then it's not going to work out properly. So it has to be totally end-to-end. That's been a big theme, I think, that Financial Force push, and which is very much aligned with the frictionless enterprise concept.
All right, lots to chew on, Phil. Thanks for your time.
Thanks a lot, John.
Good to talk about it finally on camera. Thank you.